First of all, Mr. Gilad Carmel, it's an honor for me because you are not just an editor, you are an animation editor.
Yep. Mostly.
And you worked on Arcane and so many other great animations. But Arcane, it's living in my heart right now. I want to understand editing for animation. I really don't know how the workflow works.
Yeah, sure. Thanks for having me first. Yeah, I worked on animation editing for a long time. It's been maybe 15 years, several feature films, and now Arcane. I'm just wrapping up second season. My part of second season. Cannot talk much about that. Some people, when I tell them I edit animation, they say, "What do you mean? There's no editing in animation." And like, okay. Just to give you, an idea, when you work on a feature film like Despicable Me or other movies I worked on, the editor stays from beginning to end. It's maybe like 3 years, could be 2 to 3 years of work, because the editor is really there from beginning to end. So let's go through the process a bit. Before you do animation, CGI specifically, but any animation, you do storyboards. So this means you have some people, some really talented storyboard artists. We get the scripts, obviously, and then they draw all the scenes by hand, just very roughly. Nowadays on computers, obviously. So it's not fully animated, just have some poses, quite rough, black and white usually. And then we just put this in the computer and start cutting. So we take these storyboards made by the story artists and put in dialogue. First of all, it will be like maybe scratch dialogues, which means could be us or anybody just doing the dialogue temporarily. We create sound effects from scratch. We just have libraries and we put all the sound effects, really a lot. And we take music, which is temporary music, which we often take from other movies. Afterwards, real professionals are going to do the real music and real sound. But the idea in what we call animatic, which is all the storyboards put together, is to have your movie or your episode up and see how it works.
Vander learns none of this.
No worries there. Powder took care of the evidence.
I tried, okay?
So before it's animated, you have 4 or 5 or 6 storyboard artists working on this. This is way less expensive than animation. So you can put it in front of the directors, producers, the studio. Everybody looks at it and like, okay, this works. This doesn't work. Let's go back, change the boards. And as an editor, often I get the boards from the storyboard artist. I time them and I have a lot of latitude because I can just say, oh no, let's not do a wide shot. Let's do a close-up. So I just zoom in my Avid or Premiere or whatever I'm working on, and it's fine, even if it doesn't look perfect, because it's just a blueprint. It's not the actual animation. And I can go to the storyboard artist and say, consulting with the director, and then say, hey, maybe we should do this differently. Maybe do this entire sequence a POV shot or whatever. So you actually edit it before it's being shot. So as an editor, you're much more involved in the directing of the sequence or of the entire piece than in live action.
That happens with feature films with animation because the scale is too big.
Yeah. It depends on the production. If we just go very quickly through the phases, after the storyboard animatic phase, which could, on an Arcane episode, it will take maybe 4 to 6 months with different versions to get to a locked animatic. On feature films, Pixar takes about 2 years to lock the animatic because they're actually rewriting the story basically while doing the animatic. After you lock this on CGI, you go to, anyway, even not on CGI, even in 2D, you go to layout phase, which is where you put the camera. You translate these 2D storyboards to 3D universe with all your assets, so the characters, backgrounds. You do the camera moves, focus pulls, character movements, and maybe slight animation. Here I can still intervene quite a lot and make shots shorter, longer, because it's still easy to do. When it's starting to be animated with the real acting and lip sync, etc. After they do the animation, I get it again, each sequence, and I can still change it a bit. It depends on the production. On Arcane, I could change a little bit, but mostly not add so many frames because it's already expensive. On small TV shows, after you lock the animatic, you don't touch anything. Like layout and animation, they all have to be exact same amount of frames because it's too expensive otherwise. On a bigger project, when I work on Despicable Me or Secret Life of Pets, we actually change a lot. Like I continue changing through the layout, sometimes redoing the entire sequence in layout, and then we have animation, and if we're not happy, we would still say, let's add shots, let's change the shots, and we just do retakes of animation. Not as many as needed, but quite a lot because there is more budget. It's all a matter of budget.
Yeah, I know.
And then after animation is locked, it goes to compositing, like VFX, so special effects, and then compositing, which is final image with lighting, etc. On one of the movies I worked on, we had a full rendered sequence, 5 minutes, probably costed several $1 million, and they just decided to throw it away. And we thought it was fine, but they showed it to some people and didn't work, so okay, we'll just throw it away. And it was, I don't know, 4 or 5 million. I have no idea.
Tudo isso?
I know the editing process. It's an ongoing process. It's back and forth. Watching Arcane, there are some sequences that rely on music. I don't know if you work on that episode, Jinx versus Echo on the bridge, mixing 2D with 3D and syncing with the music. It's really hard to think that in pre-production without having the right music already.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time in pre-production already thinking about the music. I haven't worked on this specific one with Jinx and Echo on the bridge, but I know they put in some other hip hop song, a bit famous. Other places, when I worked on other sequences, I put some other songs. We tried a few with the director, and then after we go and see the music department in Riot Games, which is really excellent. Riot Games have been doing music for video games and video clips for many years, and they're really talented. And they basically wrote songs that fitted the cut. Sometimes we'd have to adjust a few frames.
Rotten luck, boys.
On season 2, we had a bit more time in advance, so sometimes we talk to them before we lock the animatic, and they already try to give us some ideas for songs. But generally, you would do temp music, and then the musicians just have to adapt. And then if they really say, "Oh, the rhythm needs to be different," then we go back even after animation and just change it a little bit so it fits and recut it a bit. Or if we know in advance that this is going to be very musical oriented, we say to animation, "It's not locked. We're gonna have to change a little bit." So everybody knows this is what we call a special sequence. Season 2 gets even more crazy about it, which is you'll see.
I just can't wait.
Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot of fun, but yeah, it demands a lot of coordination and a lot of back and forth. Yeah.
I have a doubt about the difference between the editor from animation and the editor from a live action movie. You have to know more about animation itself, or is just any editor could do the job?
I never intended to work in animation. I did basic film school. I always wanted to write and direct live action. And I started editing live action, and I was just offered a job as an assistant editor on an American feature, and I had no idea about animation. I was not even watching that much animation. So I just got this job as an assistant because I was good enough technically. They needed to speak French and English for this production, and so I just got hired sort of as a test, and then it worked. So I learned all my animation editing skills on a project.
Let me try that again.
And I'm not even drawing, I'm not even great with colors or, specifically I'm much more storytelling oriented. If you're an editor and you're passionate about editing, you could totally train yourself to become an animation editor. It's just a matter of experience. And there is a different feel to cutting animation because you have to cut storyboards, which you have to imagine how they would feel animated. And if you work on a, American fast-paced family movie, it's different than Arcane. But there's no specific skills you need to have, I think, other than being a good editor.
I got it!
you're not French, right?
No, I am originally from Israel. I came to France to study cinema. I studied in Paris and in New York also. Again, with the idea of writing, directing, live action. Became editor to earn my living, and just fell into animation editing by chance. Like really right out of my studies on a feature film produced by Tim Burton and Focus Features, and just stayed in animation since. And actually now I'm doing less and less editing and more writing and teaching. So I'm actually I teach in Gobelin, which is an animation school. I think it's one of the best. It's considered one of the best in the world. It's very known. So I teach editing, but I also teach writing there. And I'm personally writing some feature and some serious TV shows that I'm developing with other people, and most of them are not animation actually. So I'm just like to do both. So
the editor works on several branches. Let's take Arcane for example. I know there's a lot of people working on the project, and there's a lot of editors in the same episode. There's a lot of editors, right? Or no?
No. What happened on Arcane, if you probably watched this documentary they put on YouTube, the pilot took 4 years to make. I wasn't on the pilot. It was still edited in the States at Riot Games. So there was several quite high-end editors, American editors, that came to work on it for a year and a half. And then they even had some versions of episode 2 and 3. And then at some point it all stopped and they rewrote it. And when it got started again from episode 2, then they called me and we hired 2 other editors. So from episode 2 onwards, we distributed 1 editor per episode. So even though you have some other names because they did work on a project, but it was either the pilot or older versions. I cut 3 episodes from the first season, and the other editors in Paris, Nazim and Roberto, they also cut each like 2 or 3 episodes. And season 2 we're doing pretty much the same. And we have a team of maybe 4 or 5 assistants, but generally like I worked on episode 2, 5, and 8, and these are really my episodes. Like I follow them from beginning to the end.
I'm asking this because here we have 2-3 videos per week. We got to split the episodes, 2-3 editors at the same time. But we do one thing at the end, that we have a main editor for every episode, not just to stick everything together again, but to see if everything goes smoothly. Like, because some editors have different styles, but you gotta have someone to make the unity of it.
Yeah, right? When I worked, for example, for Illumination on Despicable Me movies or The Grinch or Secret Life of Pets, these kind of movies, we had a lead editor, often somebody with a lot of experience, and then 1 or 2 associate editors. So I was often the associate editor. So then it could be like the lead editor gives the associate editor a specific part of the movie to cut, or maybe some first versions, or different teams distributed differently. And I know in Pixar and Disney and big studios, they have 3-4 editors. But yeah, I think it works as you describe. There will always be a lead editor that will, at some point, will take everything and do a pass. We are very lucky on Arcane with Fortiche, because the directors, it's really important for them, the coherence of the artistic episode. I guess the artistic coherence. So having 1 editor from the beginning to end really creates a sort of somewhat different feel for the episode, even though it's all feeling like Arcane. And even the choice of music, I watched the episode and like, oh yeah, I can see why it's his episode and why this is my episode. Because even the music we choose, even though it's same directors, same musicians, etc., you feel in the rhythm. I feel and that's good, because it makes every episode a little bit more unique.
It's just a little doubt. The software is not as important as your timing and everything, but I'm curious. And you said Avid and Adobe Premiere.
In the old days, people were using Final Cut. I remember the first feature I worked on, it was in Final Cut, and it was a nightmare. Not because the software is not good, just mostly because when you need to work 6 or 7 people or 8 on the same project and transfer it easily and quickly from one to another. I think for this, really, Avid is the best solution because we have a central server. So and all the computers are connected to this server. So I open a bean. When I open the bean, it's locked. The other person cannot change it. I close it, and then my assistant can open it and do exports or do sound effects or whatever. For this kind of bigger projects, I think Avid is really, with this specified solution, specified server, is really, really, really much better than any other solution. Now, smaller projects, like at home, if they give me a short film to do, or sometimes I got like features that I needed to do like a recut. Any personal work I do at home, I do on Premiere because it's just very quick and easy, and also Premiere is good if you want to change the boards. When you work on storyboards, you can open Photoshop or After Effects directly from the timeline. So for me, Avid is really the best for bigger projects with several people. Premiere less, because sometimes there's a problem with reconnecting media when you transfer it to other people.
Yeah.
Often, almost always.
I'm asking this too because I know with animation, the footage is different. It's not video recorded with a codec or something. It's a sequence of images. So it's a little heavy to edit.
I think it really depends on the editor. Most animation editors I know, they like to work on Premiere. Again, on the bigger projects with several people, Avid I think is better. In France, on TV shows, most productions take place on a software called Toon Boom, which is actually
Toon Boom for animation.
So it's a software that it's mostly to draw, like the storyboards and the production can use it to export all kind of information. I think it's for editors, it's less comfortable. You're much more limited the amount of sound and other things. So I'm less of a fan. It works well for smaller budget, fast pace TV series. I think DaVinci Resolve we use after the editing. Like we use it to conform the cut and put in the final renders, and to update these final renders before we send it to the lab. So I never did the editing on DaVinci, but we use it for the final version.
It seems I'm unwelcome.
We can see your next work probably on Arcane Season 2.
Sure. I'm pretty much finishing my part of Season 2, which is not to say Season 2 is finishing. I just don't cut all the episodes. Other than that, I mostly work on personal projects as a writer. I'm not planning to do any other cutting of any other big project this coming months, but who knows? Some people sometimes call me like, hey, cut this thing. So Arcane next Season 2 will be my next...
Arcane, I'm not saying this because I'm talking to you. Arcane was the best animated show I ever saw on broadcasting. One of the best animations I ever saw, actually. I said that the moment I first saw, before the hype, I think. I'm really honored to speak with someone who participated on this. So congratulations and thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you. Yeah, we're very, very proud. I agree. For me also, I'm very proud of my work, of our work on this show. Yeah, and thank you so much.
Thank you.